Now, what are the symptoms of dyslexia? Here are the symptoms from an article dealing with dyslexia. He lists the symptoms. Errors in letter naming is the first symptom. Now, if the child does not associate the letter with a sound and has a specific strong association with a specific strong sound, then of course he's going to confuse letters that look alike. I mean, M's and N's, P's and Q's, B's and D's, that's very common. T's and F's. But if you do that, that's a symptom of dyslexia. But that's the way you're taught. You're taught that way, the letters don't mean anything, you will confuse them. Here's another symptom, difficulty in learning and remembering printed words. Well, how many words do you think a child can memorize by sight without knowing that the letters stand for anything? They say that about 300 is the limit. You can't read much if you only know 300 words. So there are an awful lot of words you won't be able to remember. But that's a symptom of dyslexia if you can't remember these words. Here's another symptom. Reversal of letters or sequences of letters in words. For example, be, D, was, and saw. Well, sure, you will reverse letters if you're a sight reader because the sequence of letters doesn't mean very much to you. So what if the T is before the S or after the S? I mean, the child has been told to look at each word as a little picture, and so he doesn't look at it from left to right. You see, because he's been taught to find something in that word that will remind him of it, that will recall it to him. Now, from his point of view, he might have found something at the end of the word, or at the middle of the word, or at the beginning of the word. So he reads in a totally different way. He's looking all over the place for the cue, for something that will remind him of the word. So the sequence of letters means nothing to him. And of course, he will reverse letters. B's for D's, since they look alike. Was for saw, particularly if he's left-handed, he will read backwards. He sees the word was and says saw immediately because he's looking at the whole. So you don't naturally look at, a sight reader does not look at a picture from left to right, just as when you go to a museum, you don't stand at the left side of the frame and then work your way to the right. There's something in the picture that attracts your attention, and then you look at it and look around it and you see the picture. A phonetic reader, on the other hand, must read from left to right because the letters are in the same sequence in which the sounds are uttered. So he must read from left. He has no choice. A phonetic reader must read from left to right. A sight reader does not have to. And that's why they reverse letters and read words backwards. But that's a terribly serious symptom of dyslexia. Here's another symptom. Repeated spelling errors. Well, the sight reader will make horrendous, off-the-wall spelling errors because the letters don't mean anything, and so he just wants his spelled word to look like the word they're asking him to spell, or that he has to spell. He just wants enough tall letters, enough letters hanging below the line. So he gets a general configuration. And he wonders why all this fuss over the sequence of letters, the proper sequence of letters. I mean, he's been told to look at it as a little picture. Listen, if you're told that HORSE is pony, why do they make such a fuss over the correct spelling? So you see how they penalize the youngster? They first teach them that the proper sequence of letters is unimportant, but then they penalize him when he doesn't know how to achieve that. That does a job on his self-esteem and self-confidence, if anything does. Now, phonetic readers make spelling errors, but they're understandable errors. I before E except after C. Or sometimes, how many C's or how many S's are necessary. Words like that. Understandable spelling errors. Spelling errors of the sight reader are unbelievable. They make no sense whatever. But that's a serious symptom of dyslexia. Here's another symptom. Cramped or illegible handwriting. Now, what handwriting has to do with reading, I don't know. But they say that that's a symptom of dyslexia. That's because of the way they teach handwriting. And I will go through that in our section, in our part of the program on handwriting. But the reason why youngsters these days have such poor handwriting is because of how they're taught to write in today's schools. As you know, they start with ball and stick. And to write ball and stick, you have to hold the pen straight up. I don't know what I do with my pen, but you have to hold it straight up. And the paper is straight. You're trying to get that straight line and that round ball, and it's really quite an ordeal. And once the child has spent a year doing that, then they say, okay, now you can slant it a little. They'll give you slant print. And then in the third grade, they thrust them into cursive writing. And it's sink or swim because the teacher doesn't have the time to supervise the development of good cursive. The child doesn't have the time to practice his cursive because he now has to write all these important papers and, you know, about sex education and bad education and what's going on in different parts of the world, you know. What's happening with the ozone layer, you know. They're very much concerned about the hole up there while they're drilling holes in their head.